Our story started back a long time ago. Our kids would say probably in the dark ages. It started at Trinity College in Deerfield. There was a concert that was going on at Bethel Community Church where I attended. And I invited all kinds of people from Trinity to go. Everyone said yes, except for one person. She's sitting next to me. She could give you the story of why she said she didn't want to go. I have my interpretation. She has her interpretation.
My side of the story
is right.
Of course. It's an orientation weekend. I didn't know who he was. And he invites me to go to this concert, and I thought, I have no idea again who you are. I don't know what's going to happen. So I asked him if I could bring a girlfriend with me to the concert. And he said no. So I thought, well, just to be on the safe side, haven't met you yet or anything, I just said no. Okay, now here's your version.
That could be absolutely 100% right. Maybe I had other motives in my mind. If you knew what she looked like in college, you would have said, yeah, you probably did have those motives. But I knew I didn't have a lot of room in my car, and I knew I didn't have room for another person. So I'm going to go with that answer, even though the first one's probably right. But you said no. So that's how our rocky start actually happened. But let's go forward a little bit. 3, 4 months, 5 months. And then what happened?
Well, that brought us up to April of that year. And they were running an activity on campus called Pick a Date for Your Roommate. And by that time, I knew who Kevin was. We actually had a class together, and I got to know him a little bit through class. And I thought, really, I like him. He's a good guy.
Hard to believe, right?
But being a very shy person, I never wanted to let on to that. So when we had that opportunity come up about pick a date for your roommate, I asked my roommate to ask Kevin out.
I first assumed that it was someone else. I won't mention the name. Nice person. But I thought,
Good.
I wasn't ecstatic. And this is the cough from Sheryl's tumors, so she's not sick, at least cold-wise. Yeah. I was going through the directory at Trinity, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, no, this is Sheryl Madsen. Let me tell you, that's how I felt. I was ecstatic, so things got a little bit better after that first time.
So, of course, getting ready for the big date, I go ahead and come down to the lobby of my dorm, and I'm just as nervous as I can be. And I look at Kevin, and I think in my head, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm actually going out on a date with Kevin Lunde. And I just got so nervous because remember I'd mentioned there's also a very shy person. So I was beside myself, very quiet, very reserved during that time. And you, on the other hand...
First of all, I was wearing plaid bell-bottoms.
They were cool.
Oh, yeah, okay. My hair was down pretty far. But I'm happy she felt that way. It's
yeah.
Okay. Good thing. I was happy about going out on a date. We had a great time. In my eyes, it was spectacular.
Somehow I was clued into the fact that he thought I was disappointed with the date. And I was very frustrated and just disappointed it was him. And he felt uncomfortable about that. But inside I was, again, super excited. And as we were talking, waiting for, we actually went to a concert at North Suburban Church. We saw Steve and Maria. And as we were waiting for the church service to start and the concert, we were talking, and there was an Awana flag on the platform there. And we started talking about Awana. And a lot of people I had met, they had no idea at all what Awana was. But if you know me personally, you know how Awana is near and dear to my heart. And when he started talking about it, and then telling me his family ties about his uncle being on the board and one of the very first participants in Awana. Oh, that got my heart racing even faster. And by the end of the night, I actually felt like this is the guy I'm going to marry. This is the man I want in my life. But
Uh-oh.
he didn't feel the same way.
Well, I didn't quite move that fast. Very infatuated, had a fantastic time, but freshman year, I wasn't thinking marriage.
I thought he was a hot catch. And so from
She was probably the only one at school that felt that way.
from from April 14th of freshman year to mid-February sophomore year, he broke up with me 6 times.
You know, that
6
story's
times.
been going around for a long time. Now, I know how people feel about me. I'm not that bright, right? Okay, we know I'm not that bright.
And
However, after that 6th time, we never broke up again, right?
we didn't break up again, and I get bragging rights now the rest of our marriage that he broke up with me all those times. And the way we got together was just so goofy. We were sitting on a sofa, and I was leaning over the sofa in front of me to put my coat there.
Oh.
And Kevin had a coat, and he reached behind me to put a coat there. Well, while his arm was here, I came back too soon for him, and I thought, oh, isn't that nice?
He's
He's
interested.
snuggling up to me. He's interested. So I leaned back. His arm was there, and he was thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? If I move my arm, she's going to be really mad at me and walk out on me, which would have been right. So he just left his arm there. And I just snuggled up some more there. But then as we got to be talking more and more and more, that really solidified our relationship that night. And we were together ever since then. We should probably not leave out the fact that we ended up getting engaged.
Oh, yeah, let's go backwards. You're right. Great.
That was a big deal.
That's part of the story.
Because January of our senior year at Trinity, he popped the question, and we ended up getting engaged. And our wedding date was set for that following October from our graduation. So we got married October 17th of 1981, the same year that we graduated, which, as you were saying, today is October 4th, and we're coming up on our 35th wedding anniversary, which, unbelievable. You know, you make that comment, I can't believe we lasted that long. I can't believe we get to that
That
point.
doesn't sound good.
But now in this situation, me with the cancer, that's exactly right.
It's been a great 35 years. Now, just like everyone, every moment wasn't perfect. You would have guessed I would have done this. There's 2 people on this couch that are not perfect. But we love each other. And even some of our downtimes were great. We have learned so many things from some of those times, and I'd recommend to other people, when you think times are tough, trust God, do it His way, don't ever give up,
Yeah.
and you'll have a fantastic love story. Right now, some people would say, okay, you've gone through 3.5 really horrible years. I'm going to tell a story we probably weren't even thinking about. This all started 3.5 years ago with Sheryl's cancer, where they found it in her jaw, size of a grapefruit, took it out, took a bone from her leg, made a new jaw. Later on, about 1.5 years ago, it spread to her lungs. And we've had incredible things happen. It's been a war, yet on the other hand, we've had some of the sweetest times in our life. Because you see what's important. And you see what's not important. We know what's important.
You know, it's important. And I think a lot of that goes back to when I'd shared with you earlier about Kevin being raised in Awana. What that really means is he has a foundation for verses, promises from God's Word on what God promises to do for us when things get tough. And when we found out that I had the cancer, we were with my sister too. As soon as we left the room with the doctor, we went into the waiting room. People were there, we didn't care. We prayed. And we said, we know the diagnosis sounds grim, but we know that God is in control and He will walk us through it. And we were like so surprised too they had that, because we never thought cancer would come in our family, but it sure did. And so as we went through the process of the surgery, and as you were mentioning about the bone being taken out of the leg, and then also having to go through radiation, losing the hair, getting my life back together again after all of that, going back to work again, and then finding out a year ago in 2015 September that the cancer returned. And for all that we've been through since then, now the tumors are in both sides of my lungs, and my left lung doesn't work, and part of it is collapsed. And the right side works, but not very well. But what do we know? We can keep going back to the promises of God's Word, where He'll never leave us nor forsake us. And I think for me, a lot of this goes back to when I first asked God to come into my life. I was 10 years old, laying in bed on a Sunday night, thinking about the beginning of life, the beginning of everything. Where did it all start from? And I thought about God. Where did He come from? How did He start? And it really began to freak me out. And in the Bible, John 3:16 specifically, it talks about how for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever, including me, believes in Him will not perish but have everlasting life. And I thought, wow, what a great offer to know that I can go to heaven and I can be with Jesus. But I didn't remember ever doing that. I didn't ever remember asking Him to forgive me for my sins and to let me have that free gift and go to heaven. So there in my bed, I gave my life over to the Lord and confessed all my sins, told Him that I wanted Him to take control of my life and that I believe that He paid the price for my sins on the cross and rose again. And I know that one day when I go to heaven and they open up the book of life and they look for my name, they'll see that on February 2nd, 1970, that Sheryl Lynn Matson accepted Jesus into her heart. And I believe that moment was pivotal for me, because from then on, I started claiming God's promises and acting on them. And by the time I got to be in my 50s and was confronted with this issue of cancer, I already had a history of claiming God's Word, a history of coming to Him when I needed Him. And I believe that's what just brought me to this point in my life. And right now, we don't know how much longer my life really is. I'm on hospice right now. But what I do know is it's going to be hard saying goodbye to some people, because when I say goodbye to them, in my belief, they haven't surrendered their life to Christ. They still walk a path of surrendering their life to other religions, other beliefs. But the Bible clearly says you can only have one belief system. And to go to heaven, it's got to be through Jesus Christ. So for some people who don't have that assurance, I feel like I'm saying goodbye to them. Whereas for other people, like Kevin, who has surrendered his life to the Lord, I think for him, it's more of see you later. So it's kind of a tough time for us, but like for many things, God has gotten through us, things in the past, and He'll do it again in the future.
Well said.